Welcome to the Winner's Playbook with Steve and Josh. Disclaimer: the information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances. Please head to the show notes if you wish to book a free 15-minute call to discuss your personal situation.
Welcome back to the Winner's Playbook. My name's Steve. I'm here with one of my colleagues, Josh. Josh, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, Steve. What are we? We're a week out from closure, so it's been a huge year, and everyone I speak to seems to be in the same basket of it's just been a frantic year. But overall, it seems like it's been a really good year for a lot of different businesses. I don't know what you're seeing on your end. Obviously, for us, it's been a huge year, but a lot of clients I'm speaking with, everyone's been busy, and it's actually been quite productive and promising. All in the the eyes of interest rates and everything else going on. What have you seen on your side, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. I think some industries are really kicking goals at the minute. A lot of funnily enough, retail. I'm seeing a lot of good results there, but then there's other industries that are sort of struggling a little bit. But all in all, I'd say fairly positive going into 2024. There's a lot of sort of negative press around, these, especially interest rates and what it was going to do. But
yeah,
I'm seeing a lot of good results popping out of clients' companies at the minute, and little bit of cash flow issues, not too bad, but all in all, pretty good.
What's your thoughts there just on interest rates? Obviously, the headlines now are that, inflation's obviously coming right down, and over the last couple of days, the Federal Reserve over in the US talking of baking in some interest rate cuts. So what's your personal take on what that might look like in the next 12 months?
My personal take in Australia, I think it'll be pretty flat for at least the first 6 to 8 months. I don't think we're going to see too many cuts as such. I think they'll be quite conservative here, and they'll really want to see it, the steam come out of the inflation. So I think they'll be pretty patient with it over here. I wouldn't expect any immediate cuts, but maybe the back end of next year could be potentially on the card. So I think we might see maybe one or two at the back end of the next year. What's your take?
Yeah, that's my vibe as well. I did a video this morning on it, which I'm going to put out on the socials a little bit later today, but just kind of looking at what the markets are pricing in, and some of the consensus is now is they're starting to price in around March a possible reduction, but it's only, I think, 25% chance at this point in time, but definitely towards the back end of next year, they're pricing in, I think, 2 cuts possibly in the next 12 months. But as we know, at any point in time, like, it can change at such a rapid rate. Like that's what's happening now, but it could quite easily shift and they cut sooner or quicker. You just don't really know. But I think my message key was there. The interest rates are definitely not going back to 2%. So don't think that we're going back to those COVID levels. But I said that I think a realistic interest rate on your mortgage of low 4.5 to maybe 5.5 in the next sort of 12 to 18 months, in that sort of bound, is probably where we'll sit. So obviously people still need to be accustomed to the higher interest rates, or a more normalized interest rate, I guess, because I guess people got kind of used to that lower interest rate environment that we're in, fixed rates at 2%, which is just hasn't been seen before. So
no, definitely. Now, question, for the listeners out there, would you be classified as my business partner? Is that what you're classified as?
I believe so, Steve. You can call me what you like. So
Jeez.
You can. I think that's what it would be, and that's obviously what we're talking about today. Business lessons we've learned along the journey. Obviously, your journey a bit longer than mine. Mine only tick over 2 years now.
Yeah, another crack at my age.
Hey, what was that?
Yeah, another crack at my age.
Quite possibly just saying you're quite seasoned, Steve. That's all there is to it. But that's good. That's a good thing. I think you need a little bit of that, bit of youth, and a bit of what shall we call it, bit of age in there as well. So there's nothing wrong with that. But so what are we talking about today, Steve?
Well, I think today is all about what we've learned, as business owners, and this will be fascinating because I think I've probably done only a few more years than you, and I think we've got a little grey hair, so that's okay.
Yep, I agree.
And so my views and your views, but really what the key lessons I think we've learned as business owners, and I'll be interested to hear your take since you've become an owner of Link. When did you become an owner of Link? 3 years ago? 2 to 3 years ago?
It was on my birthday, 2021. Yeah, September 6th, 2021. So yeah, we're tick over 2 years now, and God, that's gone quick, and I've got some more grey hairs and lost some hair along the journey. So it's only just beginning. It's only just beginning.
And in those 2 years, this probably the Link's gone from leaps and bounds, and especially in the last couple of years, and rapid change, to say the least, in the financial services industry. Link is, but we've got multiple businesses now, being mortgage broking, accounting, and we've got obviously the wealth management business, but we also own a offshore business called Levera, which staffs 35 staff over there. In Clark, North, and Manila. So that has its own interesting things going on there. But what with all those businesses going on and the growth that we've seen in the last couple of years in particular, what are the key takeaways that you've sort of got from that, and what are the key learnings you've got from it?
Yeah, I've got heaps. I've taken down a couple of ones which I might rattle off, but what one of them is definitely, being a business owner is definitely like the reality of it always sounds good. Like it sounds good, like having your own business or being a part of a business. And I think a lot of people have those desires, but it's definitely not for everyone. And I think we've seen that just over the journey. And I think it's like for anyone listening, like it's being a business owner is not pretty at all. What you have to deal with, and you're dealing with all of the, like I've heard a lot of Elon Musk and other prominent business figures talk about, like you're just basically putting out fires most days, like issues going on, staff or whatever it may be, someone's trying to come get you or whatever it is. You just like you're dealing with all the bad stuff. So the easier path would not to be a business owner and not have to get involved in any of that. And then that's why I think it's good to understand that being a business owner is not going to be for everyone. But for me, I just always had those desires and thoughts, and I don't know.
Right.
I guess, yeah. I think.
Why did you have those? Like, what was it that made you want to be a business owner?
Yeah, it's tough to put. Like, without having, I didn't have anyone around me when I was younger, but I just always had this like mindset for big stuff and big things in a way. And I just felt I was never going to get there being an employee, sort of like taking orders in a way and running the ship like that. Like, I think that's the most appealing part of being in business is you can make it what you want and take it as big as you want as well. And then it's on you as well. So I think that's the part that really gravitates to me is, being obviously a part of that, or us making those decisions, but it's really where we want to take it. And it's really up to us to ultimately get it there. And that's where it was for me. Like I've always just thought of, big and like that. And, and I guess like a lot of people, like being a business owner does sound great, but, I think before I got into business and before we obviously did that back in 2021, I was always kind of thinking and operating like I am in business. Like I've always been really inquisitive and always want to ask questions and always sort of like fascinated by that, but just didn't really know until probably, I was in my 20s that, hey, this is something I think I actually really do want to do. And obviously take that leap and then here we actually are. But I guess probably a bit different than on your end, Steve, because you sort of started things back in 2012. Like what made you originally say, stop working for someone and actually have a crack at doing your own thing?
Oh, I think it's like sort of what you alluded to. You've got the you decide the direction, right? I think that's the main thing for me was being able to control the direction of the decision making in terms of where it goes, how big it's going to go, and and being the guy. I suppose I've never steered away from making big decisions, and I've always been happy to make the big decisions and cop the consequences. If either way it panned out, I was always happy to do it, and I just figured I wanted that control to with my own destiny, really.
Yeah.
And sure, there's definitely some jobs that you can be an employee and get that, but I ultimately wanted the ultimate decision making responsibility, I suppose, and get on that journey. And so I sort of I had that from a very early age. I owned a bar at 21, and and that was pretty early. So I sort of always wanted it, and so I went off, did my studies, and got all the qualifications required to really excel in a career. And then from there, I knew I wanted to get back into being a business owner and did it that way. And originally, I was in partnership with another fella in financial services, and we just went our separate ways after a couple of years amicably, but it just wasn't going the same direction I wanted it to go.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, he actually wanted to make it bigger than Ben-Hur, and I felt at the time it wasn't appropriate to go that big, like the way he was talking, and I felt we needed to get the foundations probably set first, and that was actually my main driver to go separate ways because of that. So, and then started Link, obviously 2012. So yeah, interesting journey, but I think it's that ultimately you've got that full control and you can develop, and I think you and I are both also very passionate about creating opportunities for others. And I think, and clearly I think to build teams like we have, I don't know, what have we got in the team now, 55 or 60 people or something, you've got to have that drive to want to develop people's careers and really be passionate about that. And I've always been passionate about that. That to me, there's a commercial reality with business, but there's also the what makes you feel good,
Mm.
too. And that's a big part for me, is seeing those results of the staff. And we've got some junior staff that have come on leaps and bounds in the last couple of years, and
Yeah.
that's always been one of my big ticket items as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good one you sort of touch on, though. Like, one of the biggest lessons that I've seen, and probably one of the most challenging things is being a business owner, is actually just managing staff. And the biggest thing I think for the success of any business is your culture, because ultimately it's your team members that are gonna, you can't do everything yourself. So you need to have the right people on the bus, so to speak, which is your book that we've been recently reading, From Good to Great, and it all just talks about having the right people on the bus before you sort of take off in the direction that you're trying to go in. But the culture is absolutely everything, and that's by far one of the hardest parts of being a business owner, is just managing staff day to day. And
Totally.
everyone, like, you've got your own life and your own issues, but then when you're an owner, you're sort of in everyone else's life as well, and then you're having to deal with everyone else's issues, and there's the good and the bad times, and everything there and in between. And obviously being able to drive everyone's careers. And I guess another, takeaway from that is, I think, just keeping things interesting. And I think that's a big part of having that growth mindset as well. Like, if you sort of stagnate, you sort of die. If you're not growing, you're essentially dying. Like, I think we'll just speaking about that yesterday. But I think, keeping it exciting. Like, we were in Dubai a couple of months ago, and we're looking at obviously setting up and doing some work over there in Dubai, which there's really no advisors doing. But I think constantly pushing and looking at new things, that just makes it more exciting and fun, well, for us, but more so importantly for everyone that's actually working at Link as well. It's just not your everyday job that you're going to come up with. Like, we're always looking at new ideas, we're open-minded and just pushing. So
yeah, I like when we have those conversations, I actually get excited. Like, it's like, I was sitting there yesterday, and you and I constantly have those conversations about what's next.
Yeah.
And we always will. And that to me is exciting stuff. And I think if you're going to create a company these days, you're up against competition, right? Like, to attract the best staff, and I truly believe we've got the best of the best at Link. We'll continue to push the limits around that stuff, but to retain and to find the right staff, you're competing against big companies, right? So if you don't bring something to the table that's the best or different, then you're not going to get the best staff, and definitely not going to keep them. So I think you've got to push the limits, not only for the excitement of you and me that we enjoy it, but also for that reason, to continue to grow, to retain, and also keep exciting for the staff. These days work is all encompassing, and you've got to make it fun. That's for sure. So I'm a true believer in that.
Yeah, and then that was one of the other points I actually had down. I'm going through my list as we speak here,
I
but it was
steal
like,
it.
just slowly going down the list right now. But being willing to actually, like, take those calculated risks. And I think for anyone getting into business, it takes a bit of crazy. Like, you've got to be a little bit crazy in business, but then trying to grow the business, like, you have to be constantly pushing and looking at other opportunities and growing or acquiring businesses or whatever it may be. And absolutely none of that comes without taking on a level of risk. But I guess what about for you then, Steve? Like, how do you kind of manage that risk, over the years? How have you done that by making decisions to acquire a business? How are we sort of thinking about that or looking at that when we're doing it?
Yeah, I think I've always managed it through, not going too far outside your skill set. So, like, that's the biggest way to manage it, I think, is, really just press on what you're really good at, and do that first. So use your skills in other regions or other areas and push hard on that. All the decisions we make also aren't business critical. I always make sure that if it doesn't come off, and sometimes it doesn't, you've got to have a swing, right? You've got to have a swing, otherwise you go nowhere.
Yep.
Every now and then that swing might not come off, but as long as that swing isn't critical, it's not going to finish the business, or it's not going to, end us, then you're good to go. And that's the best way to manage it. You can't, as you said, you can't push business, you can't grow them by not taking risk. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
But you can definitely take calculated risk, and that's what we do at Link. Whenever we're going to push into something, we know what we really understand our market, really understand what we're walking into. Is there a pressure there is there a demand there, clearly, and does it complement our existing skill set? And then if that all ticks off, then you're pretty much good to go, really.
Yeah, that was one of the points I actually had down there, was literally stick to what you're good at. I had that written down, like actually stick to what you're good at. And we've obviously got the financial planning, which is kind of like the mothership of Link. It all sort of started from financial planning or the financial advice side of things. But then from there, the finances come off it. So we've obviously got the finance business as well, doing home loans and so on there. But then we've got the accounting arm as well, and obviously looking at all other opportunities. But none of that sits out of our wheelhouse, and it all complements the mothership business being Link Wealth Group. Like everything comes from that, and it all sort of intertwines and feeds in nicely. So like we've said it before, like we're not going to pivot over into being a real estate agent or some weird tech company or something like that. Like we're just going to stick to what we're good at. Now that's why I think where some businesses can go wrong, because they spread themselves out too much and they're trying to chase the shiny, the next best thing, and just don't stick to what they're actually good at, and just be patient with it. And just that's really how you make the dollars over the long term, in my opinion. But another point I had as well, Steve, is like, if you're going to be in business, it's going to become a lifestyle as well, which we talk about all the time. And we spoke about, I think, an episode or two ago about, you kind of forget your typical work-life balance. But I think that comes into, you need to find something that is a passion. Like we said, if it's, passionate, it doesn't, like, I don't know, my days don't really feel like I'm working every day. It kind of just feels like I sort of sometimes playing a bit of a game, and I'm just trying to figure out how to get better and go to new levels every single time. But I know you always say that to the staff as well, like particularly the advisors, if you want to be the best, it really does become a bit of a lifestyle.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you really want to be passionate about what you do, or you have to be passionate about what you do, that's a no-brainer. But if you want to, particularly if you want to be the owner of the business, then realistically, there's no off days. Realistically, so you got to love it, but it becomes all encompassing, and it definitely becomes a lifestyle. It just, you realistically think and breathe it all day, every day, and you're always thinking about what's the next thing I can do. Even you stand at a picnic with with your friends, I'm constantly thinking about what's the next angle I could take with Linked or one of the businesses to go to the next level. And that just naturally happens. I can't stop it. You just naturally, because you're so engaged in it. And I think if you're going to be successful in anything you do, that's just the way it goes. Because you want to do it. That's the thing. It's a want. It's not that you're forced to do it. It's actually you want to do it. You want to think like that. And so it's as you just said, it's not a job. It's actually not stressful at all. It's actually really fun, which is really weird, right? You're probably on your particular off day, and you actually stand there thinking about what you want to do when you hit the desk on Monday. Like, it's probably for a lot of people, unfortunately, that's not really common, because they might not enjoy what they do. But that's where the difference is. But if you want to be successful in business, you absolutely be all encompassing. That is for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And I could sometimes get it. Like when you're speaking, it all sounds normal to me, but then people probably listening be like, you sound like you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like you sound like a bit of a maniac, like you're always thinking like that. And that's some things I've seen. That's why I've had to cut out people in my life, because they're not on the same wavelength. And it is hard to actually shut off, and you're always thinking about the next thing. And it's always just that cog's kind of always turning over. And then parents or family, friends, like, kind of think you're a bit crazy, and you say that you're always working. And that's why I think that, like, that's why being a business owner is not going to be for everyone, because it's sort of the minority that can handle that, and kind of handle that heat in a way, and not then crumble. And I think if you're if you're not in business and you're thinking, well, is business for me? Like, if you're doing something and you're working your, I don't know, Monday to Friday, and you're always rushing to get to the weekend because you just can't wait to get to the weekend, well, you're probably not in something that you love at all. Like, it's clearly not a passion if you just want to rush towards the weekend. But if it's if it's something that you truly then enjoy, like, you never really switch off at all.
No,
You never.
Right. You don't. But say before you became one of the directors of Link, and obviously a shareholder of Link, what was the part for you that wasn't quite the same? So you had a preconceived idea before he came in, and what were some of the biggest things that changed? Over once you became an owner, what are some of the things that were totally different? Or
Yeah, it's a good one, because I think I've said this to you before. Like, I was already in the mindset that, like, I was kind of operating in my mind like I am an owner before I even was. Like, I was already in that. And then weirdly, when we did the transaction, which was, like I said, on my birthday in 2021, like, it weirdly didn't feel like it changed me in any way, because I felt like I'd already done it in my mind, like it was already done. But then again, never having been in business and had that responsibility, I didn't know, well, a lot of things, and obviously had to lean on you and have learned a lot along the journey. But I think that, yeah, the hardest part of it is just which just comes with time. I think it's like I said earlier, dealing with staff and
Stuff. Yeah.
having hard conversations with people. Like we've had to have some hard conversations along the journey, and I don't think there's any way of teaching that. There's no way of teaching that. That's been the biggest learning curve, I think, for me is, but not shy away from those hard conversations though. You can't shy away from them. Like we always talk when there's an issue, or if it's staff or a problem in the business, whatever it may be, like you don't want to let that just sort of build up like a cancer, because it will grow and get bigger. Like whether it's a staff member who's quite negative or got a bad vibe or whatever it may be, like that stuff just rubs off. And I think one thing we do is whenever anything like that then occurs, although it can feel uncomfortable, but you just got to like run at it head on and hit it as hard as you can to squash it. And sometimes that may result in someone actually leaving the business or something else happening in the business. But then I guess I, reflect on some of the, scenarios that we've had and what we've gone through. It's you look back and you're like shit, why don't we do that sooner?
Yeah.
Like, and that's by far the hardest part, is just dealing with those types of things, because they're not comfortable conversations. They don't come natural to you. You naturally want to pull away from them as well. But the way I get through it is I try not to. Well, I just want to actually get into it as soon as I can. I don't shy away from it. And when it happens, I just have to run at it as head on as I can and just embrace and learn from it. So yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing I've found is it's tough. It is. And that's why, again, not everyone's, will want to deal with that stuff, because it's not easy conversations sometimes. I know we've had a lot of them.
We've had some crackers this year in particular. But if you, as you said, if you don't make those decisions, you've got to make those decisions. I think that's the toughest part as a business owner, is you've got to make those calls, and you're the one that's going to have to front it up. You can't pass the buck to someone else. It's you. You've got to deal with it. And as you saw this year, you and I both had to deal with a couple.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but that was the way it goes, and that's business. And I think, and that's also, if you don't deal with it, it's actually critical. Like it actually could finish your business.
Exactly.
Because as you said, that cancer can spread.
Yeah.
And if it spreads, it completely destroys your culture.
Yeah.
Then it destroys the rest of your staff, and then you don't have a business. So that's actually business from a business risk perspective. There's one is growing and making that decision making, executing correctly on that side. Secondly is that what you've currently got, you've got to maintain it, and sometimes that maintenance requires some changes. But if you don't make those changes, it's also business critical. So yeah, it's all encompassing, that business owner hat.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it. But as long as you're up for it and you're willing to work hard and you're passionate about it and you can front that stuff up, then it could be the right angle for those listeners out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, just finishing on a couple of other points here, like I had one, like not getting complacent as well. Like, I don't know about for you, Steve, but it weirdly feels to me when there's not a lot going on and there's not stuff happening and, I don't know, new deals, or we're looking at stuff and we're not doing things, like I start to feel uncomfortable when it's like that. Like I don't feel comfortable when I'm not uncomfortable, which is, again, it's one of those things that kind of sounds odd when you hear someone say that, like if they're not pushing and growing or pushing the envelope, so to speak, you kind of feel a bit weird. And I sometimes find myself like that when it's kind of status quo, maybe for a week. I'm like, oh, something's like, not right. I need to get my teeth into something. Yeah. Like it's, I don't like, is there someone else that I need to be speaking to or pushing? And yeah, I don't know, maybe that it'd be fascinating to actually chat to obviously other business owners around how they think about this, because we quite, I think we think quite similarly in a way on a lot of that. But I don't know, do you get that feeling sometimes, Steve?
Yeah, I do. As soon as I'm not busy, I feel a bit awkward, and like I need to pick up the phone and do something, or call a client, or find a new client, or do something. So yeah, we definitely push pretty hard on that respects. That's probably the part you and I might need to try and work out over time to relax. We've got a great business coach that I know talks to us about doing exactly that. But yeah, I think we're just very passionate about what we do, and we like to keep busy and we like to keep growing. I think that's the key part. I think you and I both get bored quite easily, to be honest, and I think we're always looking for that next push to make it exciting. So that's where and it is exciting, right? Like it's good fun. So the thing about being a business owner is you can have a lot of fun with it. Like that's the part of it that is fun. Like you got all that stuff you got to deal with, stuff and that, but once you get past that and you deal with that, okay, you can have a lot of fun with it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that energy, like obviously we've got a lot of energy, but if that wasn't going towards a business, well, where's that going to be going? Maybe it's not going to be productive. I don't know.
That's right.
Like that energy's got to go somewhere. So no, I think it's good. It keeps us busy and just keeps us pushing in the right direction. But there was one of my final points there was actually don't expect to know everything yourself as well, and seek out like others or mentors, or like we said, we've got a business coach that we're working
Yeah.
with at the moment, and this is exactly what we do with our clients, and have someone that kind of hovers over the top who can look down on what's kind of going on a day to day and can clearly point out your blind spots, or someone you can just bounce ideas off as well. That's the biggest part I actually really enjoy about having a consultant working with us, is just say, hey, we're looking at this, like we're looking at acquiring an office at the moment, and just say, look, this is all of my thinking, but hey, am I missing something clearly obvious here? Like, do I have a blind spot? And again, like I said, that's what we do with our clients at a sort of a more sort of micro level. But then on a like the larger scale, when you push it out over business, small or medium or large, I think any successful business, you have to have some sort of consultant, coach, or someone that can at least give you, a second set of eyes on what you're doing, because you can't make all of those decisions, or the best decisions. I don't think you're always going to be able to make yourself. So
No, totally, and yeah, totally. You need a team around you to
yeah,
get the best ideas, right? Like
yeah,
we all that's the good thing about Link, is we always collect everyone together to have those discussions, and then you and I obviously make the final call on things. But
yeah,
realistically, we've got to that final call because we've had all the discussions with people. So I
yeah.
think having that team around you is absolutely key.
Yeah, and my best and final point here, Steve, I don't know what yours is, but I've got one final one. And talking, obviously, we're financial advisors. That's what we are at the core. But being a business owner as a wealth vehicle or wealth creation vehicle is by far, in my opinion, the best return on your investment you're ever going to get, for a couple of reasons. As we said earlier, it's how big do you want to take this thing? Like, it could be $1 million, it could be $100 million, it could be $1 billion. I don't know.
Yep.
So you're going to get your best return on any investment you make is within your business. Like you start at, say, from zero, and now it's worth X. So it's like exponential. So it's not like putting your money in some shares that you have no control over, or just a property. You can constantly push, make decisions, and grow that into whatever you want it to be. But then also just, which, talking more broadly with that, is when you're a business owner, you have a lot more flexibility around how you pay yourself and how things are structured, and using family trusts, and the tax side of things is more favorable as well because of the low tax rates of a company. So it just gives you way more freedom to control your life, but ultimately your wealth and what you're doing with your cash flow. And if minimizing tax is a passion that obviously everyone wants to do, it does allow you to do that when you're a business owner, because when you're an employee or you're working for someone, the government will always take their share before you get yours. Whereas when you're a business owner, you get that money, it is sitting there in your company, and ultimately you can pick and choose how that then gets distributed out, or you retain it in, or you've just got way more options at your disposal. So from an overall wealth perspective, and I say it to my clients all the time, property's great, your investment portfolios are great, but if you are in business and you're interested in business, like by far that should and possibly will be the best investment that you can have. So what would you add much more to that, Steve?
So look, I think it also expedites how quickly you can get there. So
Yeah.
I'd still classify myself as quite young, but you've expedite your wealth quickly if business pays off, and that's exactly what you and I have done over the journey. It brings everything forward, and so you can pay off those houses sooner and enjoy life a lot earlier, I feel.
Yep.
But my key item, I think, is you got to invest in education, though. You're just not going to get to where you need to be as a business owner without that education backing. I think that's key.
Yep.
Like that diploma you've got on the wall behind you, you've got to have that backing to then go into business. It just makes that decision making a lot better. So I'd say for anyone out there, definitely invest in you, because it's going to pay, as you said, it's going to pay off in spades down the track if you open your own business.
Yeah, would you say there's a type of course or anything anyone that should be doing? Like as an example, I've got an accounting degree, and as much as I found that degree incredibly boring, being able to understand like balance sheets, P&Ls, like I think it's a good sort of like base to have. Would you agree?
Mate, I'm a chartered accountant, and so I did as high as you can go in account. I think it's the best qualifications you can get accounting. You know, it really helped me out. To understand those P&Ls is crucial for a business owner, and cash flow in particular, and when and how to manage cash flow. So I think I'm biased, but I think accounting is a really good starting place.
Yeah. No, that's good. Well, it's been a good chat here, Steve. And guys, that's all we've got time for today. And this is our final session for the year. And we're going to be back next year, Tuesday the 16th is when our next podcast is going to air. But want to thank everyone that has been listening. Obviously, we've only kicked it off this year. Please do give us 5 stars on both Spotify and Apple because it does help us a lot. And if you do, of course, want to chat to either Steve or myself, you can book in a 15-minute call using the links in the show notes, or also just go to our website and you can have a chat with any of the advisors as a part of the team. But we're going to be on a break for the next few weeks. Before we head off, Steve, what's your major plans over the break?
I'm going to take it pretty easy. We're set for a big 2024, so try and get a couple of weeks rest before we rip back into it for what's going to be even bigger year than this year.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you on the next one.
See you, mate.
See you, mate. Bye.